Hi, it's Lisa here from Imagination Crafts, and I'm really excited to be bringing you my first ever YouTube with Imagination Crafts, and I'm so excited about it. What we're going to do today, I'm going to show you some fabulous little techniques that you can do layering stencils using lots of our brilliant products. As you can see in front of me, we've got the gorgeous rice paper, and Sue used this in her first demo, and I'm going to be using the butterfly in a similar way but putting a little twist on it. I'm also going to be using one of my favourite stencils, one of my favourite Imagination Craft stencils, which is the bubble stencil, or the circles. It's beautiful to use, and we're going to be doing some fabulous things with that. Also our art stamps, so the lovely script, and you can see it's a beautiful one. Sue again used that in her first demo, and it's a real good favourite of ours because we can do so much with it. And then the lily, the gorgeous lily stamp, and you can see that's lovely as well. Two other products is our mixed media ink sprays, and I'm going to be using the light green and the light blue, and these two work really beautifully together as a colour range. And then the last thing is good old gesso. Okay, we think of gesso for using it on boxes to prime things, but I'm going to be showing you a little bit of ghosting with it as well. So let's get on, let's show you what we're going to do. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is add some of the gorgeous mixed media inks to two pieces of card. One that I'm going to use for my background, and then one that I'm going to use for my foreground, which is a smaller square. So again, as Sue showed you on the first demo, we need to prime the spritzers. So when they're brand new, we're just going to pop the lids off, and you're going to give them a couple of squirts. And the first couple of squirts won't come out too easily, but you can see on about the third one, it's going to give us a lovely strong colour. So again, I'm going to do the same with the blue, and you can see beautiful strong colour there. So let's just turn that over, just so that we've got a little bit less on the background, because I want to fill it with my card. Take my two pieces of card, and this time I really want to saturate it and get some really lovely strong colour on there. So I'm going to start off with the green first of all, and you can be quite precise with these sprays. You'll see when they dry they're a beautiful chalky finish. So I'm really going to get quite a bit of colour on there, and then I'm going to take some of the light blue and I'm going to spritz that in between and really saturate that colour. I want a nice strong background. So you can see little spritzings here and there just to get the colour in place, and if I show you that, you can see how lovely that is. Okay, now normally I'd dry that with a heat gun, but because I've got so much to show you today, I'm going to pop it aside and I'm going to bring in one piece that I did earlier. So this is the large background piece first of all, so you can see once that's dry we get this beautiful chalky finish. Okay, next we are going to use the stencil and we're going to do a bit of ghosting. So let's bring the stencil back into play. And I'm going to pop that on top. Now I tend to, when I'm ghosting, sometimes I want to move it, so I tend to do it a bit free-handed. If you want to, you can actually tape it down onto your mat to hold it into place, or you can just take a little tiny bit and just pop it on top, as I tend to do, just to hold it in place there. So I'm going to take a little bit of the gesso, and I'm using a blending tool here, a circular blending tool. Hold your stencil down, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to rub the blending tool over the top of the stencil and just infill those little holes in the stencil and fill it with the gesso. And you can start to see it goes quite light, it really sucks into the card. And I forgot to say to you that I'm actually using watercolour card here, because I find that the spritzers work beautifully with it and they really blend nicely. So I'm just rubbing it over the top, and you'll see it sucks in, and then give it a little pat if you want to build up the colour, and you'll start to see it gets a little bit brighter. As it starts to saturate into the card, it gets brighter by adding another layer on top. So once that's all in place, let's pull that out and have a look. And you can see we get this beautiful ghosting image on top of our card. It's lovely, isn't it? And again, that's going to dry a little bit lighter, so we're going to move on to the next stage. So let me pop that out of the way, and what I'm then going to do is bring in one that I've already dried off, and you can see it's gone slightly lighter, but it gives us a lovely look to it as well. So again, we're going to take our stencil and we're going to pop it back on top. Now, if you're at home, you can take the time to give it, actually I'm going to give it a little quick wipe because I've got a little bit of build up there on top. So let's give that a quick wipe off. And then I'm going to take a bit of kitchen towel. And you can see how easy it is to use gesso with your stencils and clean up really quickly. There we go, all ready to go again. So I'm just going to put that back on top. So just taking your stencil, lining it back up onto your bubbles and popping that into place. Now this time I want it to be a little bit firmer, so I'm going to take a little bit more tape, just on the bottom. Make sure that's nice and flat. And I'm going to put some more on the top. So just getting that into place. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our lovely script stamp and I'm going to use VersaFine Black Onyx and I'm going to start to ink up the stamp. Now again, you can use any sort of block you want to. This is a rocker block that I'm using here, but I do tend to use the VersaFine. I find it a really lovely wet ink, and when you've got a detailed stamp that has this much detail, you really do want to capture every little bit of it. So what I'm then going to do is I'm just going to do some random stamping. So this is where we start to layer with the stencils. So I'm just going to stamp through the stencil onto the background, and it's going to be very delicate on the background, but it's going to give us a lovely soft image. So again, let's go over to the left hand side and just pop a bit more through there, and I'm going to do one more ink in. And I'm going to pop that down the bottom there. Now let's take that tape off and have a look. Whoop! It's all come off together. And there we go. Can you see we get that lovely inking through? Let's bring that up to the camera there. Can you see? And it's just in those circles. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's a really little clever way to get a lovely little script on the background there. So let's have a quick clean up and on to the next bit. Now remember, at the start of the demo, I spritzed 2 pieces of card. So I'm going to bring in the second piece that's now dry. Okay, there's our piece of card. And I'm going to bring in our gorgeous Lily art stamp, which is absolutely lovely. And again, working with the VersaFine Black Onyx, I'm just going to ink it up really well. When you are using a positive stamp, you really do want to give it good coverage. But with the art stamp, sometimes it gives you a bit of a sketchy background, and that's not wrong at all. It's just more arty looking, and it really does give a lovely impression. So again, it all depends on how strong you are when you stamp it. I'm going to bring in our little stamping mat, and this is something that Sue and I tend to use. As you get older, dexterity problems with your hands and things, it just gives you a little bit of a added aid. So I'm going to pop it on top, and you don't have to line up too correctly, because I'm actually going to cut a little bit of it away, and I'm just going to stand up just to put a bit more pressure onto my card, and let's pull that off. So you can see we get a beautiful impression. And I'm going to take a bit of copy paper, I'll show you in 2 secs, and I'm going to bring in some clear embossing powder and pop that on top. So be generous with it. Remember, most of it goes back in the pot. We don't need to use too much, as we just knock off the excess and it all goes back in the pot. So let's just pop that on there. Waste not, want not. Thrifty crafters that we are. Okay, so we're just going to give that a little heat, and I'm just going to take my gun and I'm just going to heat from one side, so just let it warm up a little bit. And I don't know about you, but I always find embossing absolutely amazing. Doesn't matter how many times I've been doing it for many, many years. It was one of the first things that I saw when I was crafting, and it still makes me wow now every time I watch it. I just love to see it raise up and we get that lovely glazed effect, and it just looks super. It just adds such a classy touch to any stamp design. So just working the gun around, just making sure that you get a lovely even surface, lovely and glossy. And our Imagination Craft Fine Detail embossing powder, I have to say, is brilliant because it picks up every little area and it gives you a real high glossy finish. So nearly there. There we go, I think we're about there. So I'm just going to show that to you, show you how lovely that is. Look how glossy that is. And we've got that beautiful spritzed image behind. It's beautiful, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to do that twice. I'm not actually going to do it twice on here. I don't need to show you how to do it again. You've already seen it once, you just repeat it. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut away the whole of the outside of the lily. Okay, and then with the next one, if I put this one on top, we've just got 3 petals that I've cut away from here. So let me turn that around to show you. You can see that I've got 3 petals and I can decoupage that on top. So let's have a look at the whole card put together and bring that into show. There we go. So remember I said Sue used a butterfly on the last one. I did exactly the same thing. I cut around the butterfly, I decoupaged it onto the piece of white card and then cut it out. Now the only difference being, you'll notice, is the butterfly. I don't know if you can see that on camera. There we go. Can you see the butterfly's glossy as well? So what I did was I used Versamark clear ink pad, and then I put lots of clear powder on top, embossing powder, and I heat set it. And then look how lovely that looks on the main card. And you can see it all comes together. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you soon.